All right, so we're at the start of February, which is a good time to look back at what happened in January. January was a fairly eventful month if you look back at it. It's easy to kind of just look past what happened and move on to what's next. But when you do look back, it can give you insight and inspiration for what comes next. So some of the big events for January included getting a mention on Joe Rogan podcast was probably something that's like, oh, well, just to mention whatever, but it is the world's biggest media outlet podcast at the moment. So it's pretty cool to have your name mentioned on there. What's even cooler is that we started talking about people that I work with going on Joe Rogan a few years ago, and it happened. And one of the people that I've worked with has gone on to Joe Rogan, and Ben and I have worked fairly closely together over the last few years. Definitely won't take credit for him getting on Joe Rogan because he's a very special human, and he's been working hard every single day that I've known him to improve what he's doing. But that was pretty cool. Another thing was getting back into training really, really consistently. And that is the big intention for 2022, is to go past 40 at my strongest ever position. So I'm going to be 40 at the start of next year. And the plan is to be at my strongest going into that. So the last 18 months, my training has been bad. I haven't trained well for the last 18 months. I've probably had 2-month periods where it's been okay. And that's mostly been due to leaving Australia. I I gave away all my gym equipment in Australia. And then we lived on Sark, and Sark's one of the few places in the world that doesn't have a gym. And I didn't have gym equipment for a while. And then I trained with bodyweight. But anyway, the intention is for 2022 to get to my strongest ever position. And I squatted and pressed every day in January. So I'm proud of that. I didn't necessarily want to every day, and I did get pretty sore a few times. But I got up to 120 kilo pause back squat, which is, nothing special, but it's better than I've been doing for a long time. At the start of the month, I started training every day on December 25th. That's when the gym gear arrived. And I didn't feel comfortable squatting 40 kilos, to be honest. When I first started squatting again, 60 kilos felt really heavy. And not necessarily that my legs were that weak, but just I wasn't used to having the weight on my back. And 100 kilos felt really risky, where now 120 kilos with the pause is progress. So I need to lift about 10 kilos more mathematically. If I aim for 10 kilo improvement each month, then I'll go past my target. The target is to get to a 200 kilo back squat in 2022. And I've never gone past 155. I may have got 157, something like that, but that was with a belt as well. And I have really relied on the belt. I think my best beltless squat may have been 140, 145. So I'm actually quite close to my best ever beltless squat numbers. I think what's going to help with the squat is also going to be doing more good mornings. I think I wasn't aware of good mornings. I thought because I had a strong deadlift that my back was strong enough. But I think you need the strength a little bit higher up in the back on the back squat. And I wasn't aware of that. I had a strong lower back. I deadlifted 220. I deadlifted 240 off at 6-inch blocks. So my back has been strong relative to my squat. But I think improving the good mornings, whether it's seated good mornings, standing good mornings, I think that is going to be the key to squatting new weights in 2022. And the demons are there when I think about squatting 200 kilos. Like, I go back and forward on it in my brain, like every day, of like, is that even anywhere near possible? Am I just setting myself up to look like a fool, to say I'm going to do something and then not do it? But without the intention, there's no chance, And if I set the intention of squatting double body weight or squatting, 160 kilos, new record, I don't think I'd be as scared and inspired by that. So I think it's important that I have actually, taken it a little bit further. And you guys are listening in. If you want to ask any questions, feel welcome to. The other intention with the training, the big one is, well, the plan is to snatch 101 kilograms. Now, I think that the squat is my key to that. I think I know how to snatch well enough. I'll need to practice the movement. But if my squat goes up to that extent, I'm very confident that the snatch will be there and will be fine. I've only snatched once so far. I snatched 50 kilos, full snatches. I snatched it 40 times on the minute. Yeah, I haven't really felt the need to kind of snatch again. I just know that if my squat goes up, then I'll be able to get comfortable enough in the bottom position of the snatch fairly quickly. 50 kilos wasn't anything near a challenging weight, but it's challenging from the perspective of receiving it quickly in the bottom position of the overhead squat, balancing it and standing up. So just really working on it from a skill perspective. But yeah, the challenge is really the leg strength. So the other one is to press 95 kilos. So my best ever press is 82.5. So again, it's kind of almost a ridiculous goal to have a 15% improvement. When I've been training consistently for quite a long time, I'm not planning on putting on a lot of body weight. And so getting to the 95 kilo standing press is also, potentially a crazy goal. My best this month was 70 kilos for 3. I think my best for reps is about 73 or 74 kilos for 5 and 82 kilos for 1. So I'm not a million miles away from new records on the press. I have pressed reasonably consistently, and I was doing dips and things like that. So that one's not, I wasn't as far away starting the month. I had 4 freestanding handstand push-ups in December, which was a record as well. So that's the training side. I've got some real momentum there in January and plan to continue that in February. I'd love to hear where you're at with your athletic side. What worked in January? What's the intention for February? On the richer side, crypto had a massive dip in January. A lot of people were predicting that December or January or February was going to be the month that Bitcoin was going to go past $100,000 a coin. Instead, it's gone down to $30,000. It seems as though whatever the majority thinks, whatever the dominant voice on YouTube is, really, like that's where Bitcoin and crypto really plays out, is on YouTube and Twitter. Whatever the dominant voices are saying, or whatever the consensus seems to be, it's likely that the opposite is about to happen. So as far as my wealth, it took a huge hit in January, but it's only if you measure it in US dollars, and it's only if you care about the short-term fluctuations. If you look at it from the other perspective of what did I own at the start of January? Well, I owned all that and a little bit more at the end of January. So did I become less wealthy? It depends how you measure it. It depends what you think is going to be the future of wealth. And so for me, like I don't have any anxiety about it. The key to not having anxiety about where you've put your money is to have money coming in. If you have income that is going to cover your expenses, and you have some money aside that your expenses are covered for a number of months or a year or 2 years or whatever, then it doesn't really matter what happens in the market. So I don't mind too much about what's going on there. It can't always go up, and that's how crypto works. And I do have friends, and some of my friends who have good businesses and have quite a bit of money. They literally have decided to stop dollar cost averaging in, or to the same extent that they were, because the market is down. And that is the opposite of what everybody thinks that they would do if they were an investor. Everybody thinks that they would buy when the price is low and sell when it's high. But the instinct isn't to do that. When everybody's negative, then you tend to be negative, and you tend to think, well, no, I'm gonna sit and wait for a while. Like, this is quite scary. And then when everybody wants it, that's when people start. So it's funny kind of seeing that play out. I know for myself, like, I would have been crazy stressed if, when I first started to buy crypto, which I guess was like 2019, but any kind of investment really. If you first start to buy and then what happens in the last month happens, then you're going to feel terrible. But I guess you have to kind of go through that to realize, well, actually nothing changed, and this is part of the deal. And if you look at it historically, that's what always happens, and you can't get the 10x, doubling 10x kind of gains that people have had in crypto if you're not willing to, be there during the challenging times. And I don't know, like everything seems like there's a high degree of risk in real estate or in, gold and silver. People say, well, gold and silver have been money for 5,000 years, but the horse was transport for 5,000 years as well. And it's not transport anymore. So we don't know, maybe good, maybe not. I went through my lifts a bit there, Benny, and in the comments, what are your squat and press numbers in regards to body weight? So currently I'm weighing like 83 kilograms, so just under 1.5 times body weight on my squat, and like 5, 6, 7%, something like that on the press is pretty much where I got to for January. I'm pretty sure I would have made a 130, 135 kind of squat, but I'm doing my best to be patient. I've never really been patient. So anyway, that was the current numbers. They are kind of embarrassing, but the fun thing is to be on the journey, on the process. And it's only embarrassing relative to the standards that you set for yourself and your expectations, what you might have done in the past. But the cool thing is to be in the process of improving. NFTs, I sort of went a bit cooler on the NFTs in January. I still really think that they have a huge future, and I think a lot of the negativity around JPEGs and stuff is justified, because I think the art NFTs will have a huge crash, and I think a lot of people have wasted a ton of money, me included. Not I don't know if I haven't put a significant amount of money in from my and I do still think that potentially the key project that I've invested in, which is the Secret Pineapple Society, I still think that could be a key thing that when Theta becomes more popular, if Theta does become more mainstream, then having the Secret Pineapple Society NFT, I still think is likely to be the one that people want to have. And if a lot of people who are really into Theta have that, then I still think that will do well. And I think that we're still really early with Theta. It takes time for a project. It is one of the few projects in crypto that does seem to have real world application. There is a problem with data, data streaming, data transfer. The last mile solution does need to be solved with the internet to go into this, era of more VR and even just high quality video streaming. It does seem as though that is required as a solution, but it takes time for that to be applied. So we will see. But I do, when friends tell me I bought my first NFT, I do feel some fear and apprehension for them of, that they probably wasted their money, that they probably got not scammed, but just bought something that's going to go nowhere. It's a bit like the ICO, boom before the last crash in crypto. I think NFTs are that. They're just, sucking up people's money who think they're going to make money for nothing, without a real sort of thesis behind it. But we shall see. The other side of NFTs, I'm still super bullish about like the concept of the NFT as being a ticket to a club. People want to be members of clubs. They want to have rights to access to events, to streaming, to special offers, whatever it's going to be. And they want to be connected to other people who have those same interests. When you buy an NFT, you say, well, yeah, like they can just follow, they can just be on the Discord, they can just be in the Telegram channel. But if the Telegram channel has a 10K buy-in, then you get a different quality of person in there versus if the Telegram channel has a $0 buy-in. It's just the way it is. For a lot of people, $10,000 is a lot of money, and it would exclude them from interacting or from being part of it. Is that a good or bad thing? It's just different, right? So I'd still see that. I saw an Argentinian gym project come out that is talking about giving, I think it's 20% share of the profits to NFT holders and scaling that up to like 30%. That's the first one that I've seen, and I'm not watching it closely, so you can educate me, but it's the first project that I've seen that's like directly saying like, we are going to give you a share of profits. Gary Vee has said he will do a share of profits 5 or 6 years from now if the regulators allow that. He's basically said that there'll be some sort of royalty. That could be 1%. It could be insignificant, but that's where I see NFTs becoming really valuable. There's Satoshi Island in Vanuatu, which is pretty exciting. Satoshi Island project is aiming to become a big blockchain hub, as far as I can see. So they want to have a lot of crypto projects like form a base there, and it's also a place where people can live. That idea, like that concept, is something that I'm really, really excited about. I would love to see semi-autonomous territories of innovative people popping up all around the world like that. That is very close to my heart, that I want to see that happen in the very near future. The Vanuatu project, it does say, and we own land on the mainland, which will supply organic produce to people who live on Satoshi Island. So I was working together with my friend Lyndon to kind of do this sort of project. Maybe 6 months ago, we were talking about it. NFTs weren't really on my radar at that point. And yeah, it does seem like it's complex. It does seem like there are a lot of details to work out. That Satoshi Island project, they seem to have got like a nasty letter from the Vanuatu government after having like a nice letter saying, yeah, we're going to support it. So it does seem as though Vanuatu is like a really politically underdeveloped country, which in some ways is a positive because it potentially means like it's going to be Wild West and you're going to be able to just do whatever you want. But it's also potentially a negative where they just change the rules on you. And, so I'm not saying go all in on Satoshi Island. I'm just saying I'm very excited that these kind of projects are growing and are likely to, to continue to grow. The other one is Crypto Island in the Bahamas, which also looks pretty cool. I think it's more of like a timeshare thing, and it's a bit of a different buzz to the Satoshi Island, but I'm excited to see those projects happen, and that's NFT stuff. The other really important use of NFTs that I'm looking forward to seeing happen is with regenerative agriculture and being able to own like shares in a farm and having some distributions go back to that and supporting regenerative agriculture projects. I think that is an amazing application for NFTs. It's just simplifying the process of being a shareholder and getting rewards. So I do think that will become more mainstream. The challenge is, with regulators and such. But yeah, I mean, I've been listening to a bunch of Richard Hart and learning about HEX, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. But he talks about NFTs just being a crazy fad bubble. Maybe your NFT isn't even like the NFT is hosted on a server. So I've got my own NFT almost ready to launch. I thought it would have launched at the start of January. It still hasn't launched, but I've learned a bunch during the process. You host the image on like Amazon web server or whatever, like a server. And so if the person who created your NFT decides to stop paying the server, then the NFT just disappears. And, that is something that Richard Hart is bringing people's awareness to. It's a good thing. And that's why I'm not super keen on the art side of the NFT concept. I'm keen on it from the perspective of you're a member of the club, that club can have a DAO, that club can have events, all that side of things makes a lot of sense to me. Like giving exclusive access is something that has always existed, and there is a real use case for it, and there will continue to be a use case for those clubs. So yeah, jumping into HEX, Alex is saying there, Richard Hart makes the best pumping coins. Get on Pulse X. Yeah, HEX has a huge following. I did see somewhere along the line, maybe 6 months ago, that it exists, and I kind of researched a little bit and thought, yeah, this looks dodgy. Like, I don't know what it is, and I stopped looking at it. I've been looking at it more, and it really does help to understand more about what cryptocurrencies are primarily. And most of them don't have a use case, and therefore their use case is speculative in terms of numbers go up. So if the number goes up, then people like it. If the number doesn't go up, then people don't like it. Looking at HEX and saying, people say, oh, it's a scam because there's no real underlying value. If you look at Bitcoin, there is no real underlying value. You say, well, there's miners, but how is that valuable? Like, their value is only there because people want to pay a bunch of money for the coin. People want to pay money for the coin because other people want to pay money for the coin. So it effectively works the same way for the US dollar, right? Like, people want it, so therefore it's valuable. Like, that's how value works. That's how the value of diamonds works. That's the value of everything works. If people want it, then it's worth something. If people don't want it, then it's worth nothing. A diamond isn't inherently valuable. It's valuable because someone wants it. If you look into the history of diamonds, it was like a marketing campaign that made, they did really good marketing on it, and diamonds became something that everybody wanted. Good or bad, doesn't matter. Like, it's not about good or bad. It's a question of, do people want it? So then when you look at HEX and you say, well, the founder of this project is actually streaming regularly and is heavily involved in growing awareness around the project, that seems like a positive. If I look at most cryptos, there isn't anyone associated with the coins that actually represents them well. I did have some Cardano at one stage, and you look at Charles Hoskinson and you think, well, most people aren't really going to like listening to this guy. And I think it's the same with Vitalik with ETH. And so if demand is primarily driven by, do people want this thing, you can see that they have this community called Hexicans. There are a lot of people who have got the idea and they say, well, yeah, this makes sense to me, and I want to tell my friends about it. And so it has been built. The HEX community has been built on people going, yeah, like, this is really valuable, and they tell their friends about it. And the only way it's not good is if it gets hacked security-wise, which would have already happened if it was going to happen, more than likely, or some new technology exists in the future. But then, that's going to be an issue for all ERC-20 or Ethereum-based projects, and maybe other projects as well, if security is an issue, or the founders decide to crash the project. Like, that's the primary thing that I have seen that people are worried about with HEX, is like, the founders own a bunch of it and they might decide to crash it. So Elon Musk just sold 10% of his shares and he crashed the price of Tesla 20%. And he plays the game on Twitter, right? Like, he's saying like, oh, do I own too much? And do I need to pay some more tax? And so he decides to pay some more tax by selling 20% of his shares, which makes a 10% of his shares, which makes it a taxable event, drops the price 20%. Our shareholders really happy with that. Is that a good thing? So it does seem like a real risk that in HEX, like, if the founders or people who own a bunch of it decided to crash it, then they could. But that's probably the case for pretty much every project. Like, if the founder of any company or the person running any company or people who hold a lot of shares, like if Berkshire Hathaway decided to destroy a bunch of the companies that it owns shares in, then it probably could. But what is the incentive? Like, where is the history of that? So yeah, I've been listening quite a bit to him, and it has been a really good education to understand Bitcoin a lot better, because he was mining Bitcoin when it was $30 for $30 a coin, and he was mining when you could get 50 coins for a block. So he was mining blocks of 50 Bitcoins, which is like 2 million or something, whatever the price is today. So he's been in on Bitcoin for a long time. And if you're mining and you have hundreds of thousands of Bitcoins, then you want to know about Bitcoin. He's a smart guy who knows all the maths. He knows the ins and outs of how it all functions. He knows a lot of the early guys in Bitcoin. And so he tried to create, initially, he was trying to create Bitcoin on Ethereum. Like that was the initial goal because of the challenges of Bitcoin. And he could see the ins and outs of what wasn't working in Bitcoin and what wasn't, what was going to continue to not work in Bitcoin. And so he wanted to create Bitcoin on Ethereum, according to one of the videos that I watched him saying that. And then it morphed into the thing where the way it works, in my understanding, is you buy coins and you can just speculate on coin price, the same as every other crypto. You buy the coin, you see if it goes up or down, you buy, you sell, you buy more, whatever, you do what you want to do. The other option is to stake. Like a lot of coins have that option as well. But when you stake, you effectively burn your coins and then you mint again when you unstake. So the amount of coins that you mint when you unstake depends on whether you met the conditions that you staked to. So when you stake, you decide how long you're going to stake for, and based on how long you stake for and where the market conditions are at the time, depends how many coins you'll be able to mint on the other side of that. And so he has ended up coming up with something quite different to Bitcoin on Ethereum. And it is better because, it incentivizes people to hold and it gives you a reward if you just want to hold. And that's primarily my interest in crypto. Like I'm not a trader. I think the trading is a really negative thing for 99% of people to get into. I think that it's a really manipulated market from YouTube and from the exchanges. It seems like a really, really bad idea to be a crypto trader. And so the incentive when you have HEX is not to trade. It's either, the incentive is to stake, and to choose to stake. The longer you choose to stake for, the more reward you get. Now, the cool thing is, compared to Bitcoin, if you want to get interest on your Bitcoin, you have to go and put it somewhere else. Like, you give it to a third party, and that third party tries to make more money on it, and they hopefully give you back your Bitcoin with the interest at the end of the term. But there are cases of this going bad, and that's not a good thing. I'm not really interested in, giving away my wealth and then hoping that someone gives it back to me when I decide I want to get it back. So to me, the structure of the way that's set up with HEX makes a lot of sense. The only way those coins are going to be worth a lot is if more people become aware of HEX. But that's exactly the same as Bitcoin. Like Michael Saylor is on YouTube campaigning for Bitcoin. He's talking to friends. He's bringing people in. HEX is doing exactly the same thing. It's just more honest about it, that, hey, like, this is a popularity contest. If eyes are on this, if it makes sense to people, if people think it's cool, then they're going to buy it. Whether that's Bitcoin, whether that's HEX, whether it's whatever coin, it is that popularity contest. Theta is the project that I see that does have important real-world utility. I can see it does look possible where Netflix or Amazon or one of these companies, all of these companies, decide to use the edge node feature of Theta and the integration of all the NFTs for big movie companies and those sorts of things. It makes sense to me. It makes sense. The micro rewards, the micro payments, it makes sense. It seems as though they're 5 or 10 years ahead of where the demand is, maybe 2 or 3 years. We're not ready for it yet, but when we are ready for it, it does seem like it's going to be a good thing. Where, for Bitcoin, for HEX, and for a lot of projects, there is no real world utility where the time is going to come for those things. It's simply a popularity contest. And if I'm going to be betting on a popularity contest of which money is more popular, like that's effectively what the money markets are as well. Like, do you have your money in euros, or do you have it in US dollars, or do you have it in? So US dollars are winning the popularity contest of fiat. And so people are more happy to store their money in US dollars than they are in Argentine pesos, or Venezuelan bolivares. I lived in Venezuela for a while. It's horrible to see. I've been to Argentina a bunch of times. I have friends there. It's horrible to see what's happening to their money. So you don't bet on those monies. You bet on the US dollar. So you hold US dollars. It's a popularity contest. And so it's the same deal for the cryptos. And if you're going to be in a popularity contest, then ideally you want to bet on something that people are advocating for. So the US dollar and the US government and that whole system has momentum behind it, and has a propaganda system or a system of education where people understand the US to be powerful, and the US economy, and there's a lot of innovation come out of the US. Like it's well founded to an extent that people want to have US dollars. Now they are being constantly inflated, and there's more and more being printed, and some people have concerns about that, other people don't. That's the bet that you make. If you're going to be in a popularity contest in crypto, then you want something that people are going to advocate for and that people are going to advertise for. And what's happened is people have bought into the idea of, HEX is better than Bitcoin, and they want to tell their friends about it. And it seems as though the people who get it with HEX, it's more of like a ground level movement where people are more likely to tell other people, even than Bitcoin. And it's a different vibe. But when you can see that there is an effective culture of marketing and support within it, then maybe that's why it's going to do well. So I don't know. I'm just starting to play around with the idea. I'm not heavily invested, or I don't know where it's going, but that's something that I've been learning about. So that was a big January process for me. They do have the Pulse X and Pulse Swap. So Pulse X is their version of like Uniswap or SushiSwap or that sort of thing. So it's a decentralized exchange where you can change one coin for another coin without going through what's effectively like a bank. When you go through like Binance or Crypto.com, you're effectively going to the bank. They hold the thing. They provide the liquidity. They fulfill your order. Like they swap it for you and you pay them a fee. Then there's decentralized exchanges. So because Pulse X is the decentralized exchange, Pulse is effectively like Ethereum. So it's a place where people will be able to build and do whatever it is that Ethereum does. Pulse and Pulse X, because with the creation of Pulse, they're copying all the coins across. I'm not going to try and explain that, but it is relatively simple. Like there's a copy of every coin that's held on the Ethereum network going onto the Pulse chain. So they need an exchange to be able to provide liquidity and allow people to trade between these new Pulse coins and the Ethereum coins. So it's gone from HEX, like HEX is Bitcoin, and then Pulse is Ethereum, and then Pulse X is like Uniswap, and he's advertising for developers to build out new stuff. So it's like, wow, this is an ecosystem that is developing. There are a bunch of people who already are all in on this, and the ecosystem is developing fast. So to me, it's very interesting, and it looks more interesting than just about anything that I'm seeing out there in the crypto space. But I am by no means an expert, so don't take any of this as financial advice. I did hear one thing I liked from Richard Hart was when people say, do your own research. Doing your own research doesn't actually work because the majority of people don't have the background knowledge and intelligence. Like I know I can't really do my own research. You have to bet on people who are smarter than you, and I've done that consistently through my life. I think we all do it. You look for people who are smarter than you, who've solved things, and you learn as much as you can from them. Often you know that you can't learn everything that they know because they've gone deep in it, or they're smarter. They have higher computational power. I think Richard Hart calls it like horsepower. So you have like the horsepower is like your baseline intelligence, and then you have the steering, the traction and the steering. So you have to choose to put your horsepower in a good direction. And yeah, anyway, kind of messed up that analogy thing, but it does take a lot of work to be able to understand this stuff. And to be honest, like, I know I'm never going to be developer level knowledge of this stuff. So I want to understand it more from the social perspective, and I have been able to identify social trends, and that's probably the reason why the HEX thing kind of resonates and has made an impact on me in the month of January. So I'm just being transparent about what I'm learning about. Other big wins, January, seeing Nico Di Paoli, motion guy, motion concept. He built a gym in Bali, and that was his dream project, a house gym that he could live in. And Nico's whole story is massively inspiring. Young French guy who was, making nice videos out of his place that he was renting in France. And we started to do some work together and chat a lot. And he's kind of taken some ideas and inspiration from our exchanges, and it's really cool to see what he's done with it. So he moved to Bali, built an app, built an online business. He's taught a lot of people how to do handstand push-ups, freestanding handstand push-ups, one-arm chin-ups. He's also in the ATG for coaches program. He's an ATG qualified coach. But he built this dream gym and then decided, actually, that's not really what I want. So he's selling the gym and he's living on a small island just outside of Bali. I just love seeing people experimenting and living life on their own terms. And it's not necessarily the way everybody wants to live. It's not necessarily the best way to live, but I just love seeing that experimentation going on. And he has the financial ability to do that. And so many people say they wish they had the financial ability to do that. But when it comes down to it, there's a strong rejection of wealth. Most people have a strong rejection of wealth. And we had this discussion. So we have the Uncom group. We have Uncom Telegram. I put the link there in the description. If you have a strong rejection of wealth, then the chances of actually achieving wealth are very low. Most people have a strong rejection of wealth. Where does this show up? I just want enough money so that I can afford to spend my time on what I want to do. Well, if you just want enough money for that, you're never going to have it because you're not focusing on becoming wealthy. I just want enough money so that I can have $50,000, $100,000 passive income every year. Not going to happen. Like, you have to be seriously focused on creating something of value, or it's very, very unlikely. I mean, you could win the lottery, but when people win the lottery, they give all that money back. Statistically, when someone becomes a pro athlete and they make a ton of money, chances are they're going to be broke within 3 to 5 years after that. So that was, seeing him be able to do that living on his own terms, that really excites me, and I'm really happy to see it. Another one was Graham Tuttle. So Graham Tuttle has launched his foot program, his Return to Run, Ready to Run program. I think he's going into month 3 now, and he's getting really good results with that. It's growing fast, and his Instagram is growing like crazy as well. So these are kind of wins that they're not personal wins for me, but since my goal has been to help coaches and build online programs that work and live life on their own terms by helping people through training, helping people through training and nutrition is one of the most valuable things I think you can do with your life at the moment. The people, developers and doctors and lawyers, high paying jobs, that's not as good as helping people to have a better experience of health and of their bodies. And so the fact that some of my students are making really good money helping people is what I love to see. And I'm really happy to see Nico and Graham doing that. So that is a summary of January, my experience of January. I would love to hear more about what you're up to. We have set our targets and intentions for February. You're welcome to participate in that. The link is there in the description. And I'd love to hear if you've got thoughts around HEX or around the Ben Patrick, Joe Rogan podcast, Nico, Graham, any of those things, the presses, the squats, the daily squats. Another thing, the last thing I want to mention is the I did actually start to do video editing, which was a step forward in the smarter sense. I've played around with it a little bit in the past, but I edited more than I've ever edited, or I've edited in a very long time. No, I edited more than I've ever edited with Splice in January. So that was a good step forward as well, just taking that on. The Splice app on the phone is the way that I made some of these videos that are on this channel, and been going on to my Instagram. So yeah, I hope you had an amazing month. If you're not tuned in, tune in. ATG Mentor on Instagram. I also have the ATG Mentor channel here on YouTube where I post. And yeah, if you want to get more support as a coach, join ATG for Coaches. You can get $50 off your first month. It is the most accessible, extremely successful athletic development coach education program out there. So yeah, if you are a coach or you would like to become one and you'd like to be successful, then that is a really good option, ATG for Coaches. It was also a really good month for ATG for Coaches in January. And yeah, let's have an amazing month.